24th of '67. I was on a bar cap, a barrier combat air patrol, which is just boring holes in the sky, and got a recall. So we came back to the ship and they said, "You're late for the brief. We're going to Kép." It was a typical way the war was run from Washington. Johnson and McNamara ran a crappy war, let me tell you. You know, they dictated the targets from Washington, and here we're going on the Kép Airfield, the first time we're ever striking the MiG air base, and we get short notice to do it. So I'm in the brief, you know, and the skipper handpicked who we wanted on the strike. And so we were 6 planes of tar cap, which means you're capping right near the target for the bombers. So I get up to my airplane and I said, "I got one Sidewinder." And Chief says, "I'm sorry, we were in a rush on a turnaround. That's all we could get, had time to get you, and not you got a bad wing station." So we got one Sidewinder. There's no gun on the F-4. So off we go. We had an Alpha Strike, which is about 24 airplanes of bombers and strike airplanes and tar cap airplanes. And so we coasted in by Cam Pha, and the 85 millimeters start going off. You can tell 85 from 37 by the color of the smoke, for one thing. 37 millimeter is kind of a grayish, and it's much more repetitive. And the 85 millimeters get a little higher, and they're black puffs of smoke. So we could go through that for a while, and we turned in towards Kép, which is 37 miles northeast of Hanoi. We started circling. The skipper decided we're going to tar cap over this railroad line, which is the main supply line from China to Hanoi. And I think it had about a gun an inch on the thing. I mean, it was just stuff coming up like crazy, like goofballs. But I couldn't believe we didn't get hit by these things. And so Charlie Plum actually did take a hit. He lost an engine. So the skipper says, "Charlie, you can get by yourself." So he's, "Okay, skipper." And so he takes off back towards Cam Pha, and he's down low. He says, "I got MiGs on my tail." So John Holm, who was my section leader, department head in the squadron, and I take off to go help Charlie. And we get most of the way towards Charlie, and he says, I eluded them. They run out of things to shoot at me. I'm okay. I'm going to be feet wet. So we turned back towards the target then. But before we left, an A6 piloted by Irv Williams came off the target on fire, and I saw them eject. So when we came back in, I'm hearing this guy on the radio saying there's MiGs coming up the valley. And I found out later it was Irv on the ground with his emergency radio telling us there were MiGs coming up the valley before he got captured. So suddenly there's MiGs everywhere. The MiGs were chasing the A4s coming off the target, and we start scrambling with them. And I to this day, I don't know how many there were. There were a lot. 6, maybe more. And they were in a Loughbury circle. And what their tactic I soon quickly figured out was there are so many of them, and a MiG-17 can really turn if it's flown right. And they're flying in a circle. And so I used the vertical. So the fight was from basically the ground to about 5,000 feet with these MiGs down in a circle. So I'm just going up, down, and every time I went vertical, Gary Anderson was in my back seat, and I said, "Gary, as we get in, loosen your straps and so you can turn around and see." And I would rotate the airplane back and forth to check our 6 and make sure nobody was on it as we went vertical. And then, it was like a chess game. I was trying to time my turn to come back in where I had an opportunity to use that one Sidewinder I had. And so as I was coming back in, I had a guy back here who had been trying to play and hoping he would get up like this. I look up ahead, and there's an F4 with a MiG right on his tail. And I wasn't sure whether it was Ev Southwick or John Holm. So I yelled, I said, "Linfield," which is our call sign, "break port." And so as he broke, the other MiG back here must have called what was going on to the MiG on Ev's tail, because Ev was busy shooting a MiG down. And the old adage goes back to Rickenbacker in World War I. If you focus for 15 seconds on the guy who's shooting, somebody's going to get you never saw before. And that's exactly what was happening. So the guy calls the MiG to turn, and so he does the MiG, just when he's going really fast, is a really slow. It was like slow speed. Sidewinder tone, hose off my one signer when I had a sweet tone at about a half a mile, and his slow turn caused it right up the tailpipe. Ba-boom. Most of the tail comes off and is smoking, and I see him going back down towards the ground. Ev now has shot his MiG down, and he's, I can't transfer my wing fuel. So he's got, I don't know why he didn't have it transferred to start with. Beats the hell out of me. Maybe couldn't transfer it, period. I don't know. But it's 4,000 pounds of gas in the wings that he couldn't use. So he's got to go out now at max conserve, which is 250 knots. So here we are, we're in North Vietnam at 250 knots, and I'm doing a weave behind him, protecting him. I look back, and there's another MiG circling over the one I just shot down. And to this day, I just regret not going back and hosing off a Sparrow at that guy.
See and hear other icons of naval aviation tell their stories in our smash hit documentary, Legends of Carrier Aviation, now streaming on Amazon and Tubi TV. Also, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell for more upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.